What a race, what a weekend. The F1 2024 season has turned itself around, and it suddenly has a lot more stories that are coming to it. For me, this is probably the race of the season, but let's get on to talking about the British Grand Prix. And let's start off the story of how the race was won and how the weekend unfolded in a way, because that is even bigger of a deal in some regards. Qualifying, we saw the continuation of the wet, dry mayhem that we've seen in all kinds of different forms of motorsport over the course of this weekend. I spoke about it in regards to the European Rally Championship. World RX also had something similar. F1 also had it, and that was all across Europe. We saw it was a front two rows where it was Mercedes and McLaren. Of course, Max Verstappen went up towards the top end as well. But Sergio Perez was out in Q1 again. This time it was a spin at Copse. He got stuck in the gravel and that was game over for him. That was very much a massive dent for Red Bull's hopes, as although it meant that Checo could try out the other tyre compounds, he tried out the hards at the start of the race, it meant that Verstappen was without a rear gunner and was without a sort of front gunner as well, because if he wanted to charge through and contend for the win, which he did in the late stage of the race, there wasn't as much of the data or as much of the backup to go off of as there arguably should have been. But yeah, George Russell took pole position, and off the start it was very much him and Lewis. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri came through as the rain started to come in. It seemed as if, and you could tell this from the Sky commentary, but also from the kind of car behaviour, McLaren were much better set up when it came to the weather conditions and the variable conditions as well. So when you were on the slicks in the damp, it looked as if the McLaren was better set up, and you could see that in qualifying as well. It was only when the track properly dried up towards the end that you saw Mercedes come to the front, and quite convincingly at the front as well. But once it came to the changeover to the Inters, again the Mercs seemed okay, but they still struggled a little bit. George Russell of course eventually had to bow out because of a loss of water pressure. Not enough water in the car to keep going. It reminds me of when I was actually at the British Grand Prix 3 years ago, the last time Lewis Hamilton won, and I had to stop off on the way back because the water pressure in my Citroen was struggling. Of course, that £1,000 Citroen is different to a, near £1 million Mercedes. But either way, it was not to be for George Russell. A second retirement in 3 races at the British Grand Prix, and it wasn't 2 in a row either for him in terms of race wins. But when it came to crossover again to go back onto the slicks, it was Lewis Hamilton that got it right. Verstappen did also get it right. He went onto the hard tyres, which is what Checo had run earlier on, but Lewis Hamilton managed to get onto the softs, get clear of Verstappen, and was in the right place when Lando Norris messed up his pit entry, overshot it, was slow coming out. And then, yeah, tyre drop off for Norris meant that Verstappen got past with only a couple of laps to go. But Lewis held on. I mean, I remember 2020 when Lewis was able to finish the race and win on 3 wheels. Of course he was able to make those tyres last. It's Sir Lewis Hamilton, who is now a 9-time Silverstone winner, a 9-time British Grand Prix winner. And that creates all kinds of different records as well. Obviously, the 104th race win for Lewis Hamilton is another record. It means that he's back up at a 30% win percentage. Of course, Max Verstappen is now on a 31% win percentage, so he's not catching up to Max yet. But it's still great to see. Win 104. I think it also means a win in 16 different seasons. First driver in history to do that. Sadly, not consecutive seasons. Of course, it's been, well, the last time that he was a race winner, he was still the reigning world champion, which was the penultimate round of Saudi Arabia 2021. He's not won since that race in Abu Dhabi, and I tell you what, I was emotional. I wasn't as emotional as Sir Lewis Hamilton when he was breaking down in tears at the end of that, because he said, well, I doubted myself and kept pushing, and obviously he did. But, yeah, what a win to see. What a result. And yeah, it puts him clear as a record holder for the most wins at the same Grand Prix and most wins at the same circuit. Puts himself clear of the record that he tied with Schumacher. Schumacher with 8 wins of the French Grand Prix, Lewis with 8 wins of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Verstappen's going to have to keep going for a while to be able to get onto that list. I think right now he's not even in the top 10. Lewis Hamilton is in there 4 separate times. First, joined second, joined fourth, and joined 7th. But I guess the question is then about the impact on the championship, right? Because, well, Verstappen still has an 84-point lead over Lando Norris. It's that commanding because he was that convincing at the start of the season. I mean, you talk about it, this was round 12 of the 24 race calendar. That means we're at the halfway point. Verstappen, he's still won 7 races on the season. Even if he hasn't won the last 2, he's still won 7 races on the season in terms of Grand Prix. So, yeah, well done to him on that one. In terms of the constructors, it gets a lot closer. It's only a 71-point lead. Only a 71-point lead for Red Bull from Ferrari. McLaren are on 295. Mercedes on 221. Obviously, they haven't had the runs of podiums that Red Bull had, but they've now had 4 straight races on the podium. And I think Hamilton's had something like, 12 straight podiums at the British Grand Prix. But it's starting to come back to Mercedes now. Maybe it is that those upgrades are working. Because if you look at where they've been, it's been 3rd and 4th, 3rd and 4th, 1st and 4th, and 1st with the DNF for Russell today. Whereas McLaren, it's been those past 4 races 2nd and 5th, 2nd and 7th, 2nd and then a non-finish for Lando, and then a 3rd and 4th today. That battle for 2nd in the Constructors' Championship is starting to heat up an awful lot. But anyways, those are the headlines for me. Obviously, this is probably going to be one of my races of the season. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.